Do it.
I did it.
Yeah. You're watching the Breakdown Show. Today, our guest
Yes.
is not here yet. She is the beautiful and wonderful and talented and amazing Suzi Qutro, and she's a personal hero of mine. And I know, wouldn't you say the same, Pete?
Absolutely.
I back you into that. I know you say that. She also works with our friend Wes Maebe, the Wesinator. And so he brought us he gave us the recommendation. He gave her the recommendation to do our show. So of course we always appreciate Wes for doing such things, but you know, she's vastly underappreciated on this side of the pond. And that is a terrible shame because she is a true badass. I'm holding back quite a few things because when she jumps on, I want to say some things in front of her. But for those of you who are less familiar with her body of work, she's the original badass chick. And it's almost a travesty to say that because you don't want to lump her into the category of badass chicks because she's just a badass.
Yeah.
I mean, I would put her in the category with any rebel rocker.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean rock and roll was 10 years old when she started in it.
Yeah, that gives it some context, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not only was rock and roll 10 years old when she started in the business, but she was barely older than 10. She was, I don't know how old she was, but she wasn't yet in
14.
her 20s.
I think 14.
Yeah. When she started, and with her band with her sisters, which was the original kick-ass girl group. And they weren't like the Lennon sisters, you know, singing sweet harmonies. They were rocking out. So when you put the context of the fact that rock and roll is so young and that these girls embraced rock and roll the way that they did and that they executed rock and roll as good as practically anybody. I mean, there were veterans in the business, of course, who were amazing and, you know, who would have probably benefited from taking the girls on the road. But for what they were a group from Detroit, which is not an easy place to be a musician from because you got some competition. And then they were a group of girls, some of them just barely young women, but at least a couple of them, including Suzi, were just girls. And man, they did it, and they did it the way they wanted to do it.
You think about this in that era, to take your band on the road, everybody, every venue, every manager, you know, who runs a place, you have to convince them that this thing that nobody else is doing. I mean, you look at the comparison to like the men had to put together package shows. So they're like, wait, who's coming? Elvis. Okay. Well, that's nice. Who else? Carl Perkins. Okay. Yeah. Johnny Cash. Oh, okay. Yeah. Jerry Lee's coming. All right. Now we're getting a show, you know?
Yeah,
and so it's like they had to, that's how it was back then. And then these three chicks show up and they're like, what? Who else is coming? Who's going to hold this bill down? Rock and fucking roll.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And what's the little girl doing? Oh, she's playing the bass. You know, which also was kind of, I mean, you can think of many female bass players. By the way, I hate to say, okay, we have this, here's where we have some mending to do with the fact that we're saying these things like, and this is really like your conversation about race, Pete, which is to say that first and foremostly, she is a badass. And then she happens to also be female. And what's special about that is that she and her sisters had a set of obstacles that were different because they were female. But what they had to be before anything else was bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when she started off, she was the baby. And then she emerged and got herself discovered. And, you know, it was Mickey Most, who's from London, who said, hey, you girls are great, but I want to sign you, Suzi. You. I want you to move to London. And the rest of the girls were like, well, wait a minute. And they were like, he said, hey, I got one plane ticket. So, he took her, and she had the wherewithal to go.
Yeah.
So, you know, and boy,
When
are
you
we
look
glad that
at
she did.
the pantheon of female rockers, right? We're
Yeah.
going to stay in that side because you're 100% right. Like she is just straight up rock icon. You know,
Yeah.
it is impossible to have a rock and roll career and not have her DNA in your music. It's
That's right.
impossible.
That's
She
right.
started so early. The other person who was a real pillar, and you could give her credit for starting there first, but was really not on genre. And back then, they weren't like 1,000 genres like they were now. It was, you know,
Yeah.
black music, rock and roll,
Right.
big band. I'm running out of genres, you know.
Yeah.
But Tina Turner and her husband invented that shit. You
Right.
know, and you can say no, he didn't. But yeah, I mean, it's him and
Yeah,
a
he
couple
did.
other guys. Yeah,
He did. And whoever you say, no, it was invented by, whatever name you insert there.
Yeah.
In that conversation, that person's going to go, well, you know, I did put Ike.
You know, yeah, I can't take sole credit. Ike for sure, you know.
Yeah.
And so his girlfriend, his wife, gets pushed on stage, you know, because why not? But you had a different setup. This is, you know, this is a different thing.
Right.
So when you talk about the DNA of rock and roll, all of it, not just male or female, all of it, she's there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Man. So if you were lucky enough, like Andy, to have grown up in England, you saw her, but we didn't see her in the States really at all until Happy Days. And again, a travesty, a terrible travesty, because I challenge anybody to go back to her body of work, which is, of course, what I did. I mean, I was aware of Suzi and loved what I saw, but digging deep and going through her back catalog made me realize over the last couple of weeks, man, what a true badass. And you can use the words trailblazer and all that kind of stuff, and you'd be right. But it's almost an understatement to say that, to use any of those adjectives to describe her, because she was blazing a trail so hard that she didn't even realize she was blazing a trail. You can say female band leaders, you know, and go through the roster of band leaders who are female in rock and roll, like Joan Jett and Pat Benatar. And, you know, I'll even go Betty Davis. You know how much I love Betty Davis, but they were equivalents. And, you know, Betty Davis also underappreciated here in the States. But you can also go, okay, what about female bass players? And run down that list, and you have like Esperanza Spalding, Michelle Ndegeocello, Tina Weymouth from Talking Heads. And you're talking about women who all came after Suzi Qutro.
Yeah. How about, I mean, let's just hit this right on the head. When you think about the badass rock and roll chicks, there's a number of names. And if you're going to narrow it down, it gets really hard. Pat Benatar, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, started over 10 years after Suzi Qutro.
Yeah.
Joan Jett, same story.
Yeah.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, and
like Andy said, he saw her on Top of the Pops wearing her black leather.
Yeah.
You know, so when we think about Joan Jett and black leather, like, okay, well,
yeah,
kind of like Suzi Qutro. Sorry, I didn't mean to go.
That Suzi has sold more albums than those two, I believe, combined. It's hard to get those numbers exactly right, but let me just say this: no matter how many albums everybody sold, and this is not to compare and like say one is better than the other, but just to illustrate the legacy of Suzi Qutro. Tens of millions of records sold.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of bands.
Yeah. 55 million was the last number I saw. And who knows how recent that is. You know, it could have grown since then. And she hasn't staled out. It's 55 million albums and growing. And she's been in the business for 56 years.
Still doing it.
Yeah. And by the way, a longer career than the two of us have both been alive.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the other remarkable thing about Suzi, is that, you know, what a survivor she is. She has not only enjoyed this amazing career, but the longevity that she's enjoyed, I mean, just defies everything logical.
Yeah.
You know, we've had a lot of greats. None of them are still going as hard as she is still going.
Yeah. I mean, Debbie Harry's been around as long as she has.
Mhm.
You know, again, slightly, you know, neighbored, like, you know, adjacent genre wise. And
Yeah.
Debbie Harry didn't really make it until, you know, 10, 12 years later, which again, not a knock on Debbie Harry. She's wonderful. But
Mhm.
her band is like been her band forever. And those dudes have to sit down to play, you know,
Yeah.
like they're all this old.
Yeah.
And Debbie Harry's great live. I saw her with Elvis Costello and Debbie Harry. You know, I think they took turns alternating headline, right?
Yep. She
But
still got it. She still got
she
headline
still got
quality.
it. Yeah. And so we're talking about like they're peers, you know? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. By the way, there's a documentary about Suzi Quatro. It's called Suzi Q. And in that documentary, which of course was going to make the rounds on the film festivals and all that stuff, and but now you can stream it on iTunes and Amazon and Google Play and all those places. So every place you can get good stream service, you can stream Suzi Q. In that documentary, Deborah Harry makes an appearance and speaks lovingly of her dear friend Suzi Quatro. So,
Right.
as do a number of not just, you know, female music icons, but music icons who defined rock and roll. You know, Alice Cooper's in it. Of course, Henry Winkler shows up in it and talks about her. Get this, 3 seasons on Happy Days. I thought she did like a couple episodes, and it turns out she did episodes that spanned 3 seasons. Now, she wasn't on every episode of all 3 seasons, but, you know, she would come back and do another episode. And the ones that she did spanned 3 of Happy Days seasons. And, you know, she was fantastic.
I'm pulling up the link here for Suzi Q. I've got the DVD. If you guys know how to get to Amazon, you know how to find where it's at. And I'll have that here in the link in a second. The other thing I wanted to say about all of this, how on earth did we get this so wrong as a nation? I mean, you listen to her music. I've listened to dozens of songs now prepping for this, right? There's nothing missing from
So
this.
good. So good.
It's all good. Yeah. If you say, hey, write some 12-bar blues and put it done, like you can name the genre, name the style, and she's got a song for it. She's got these wonderful, like country-like acoustic songs. You're like, yep, that's, you know, that's as good as anything Willie Nelson writes.
How about this, man?
How did we get it so wrong? Yeah.
Let's do a song, just to expand on that point. Let's do a song that swings. We'll put in a galloping bass line. You hold down that galloping bass line. And then how about like a soulful, sultry halftime vocal line?
Yeah.
While you're holding down that galloping bass line. And I'll tell you, as a musician, the toughest thing to do for a rhythm section player is when somebody calls you up on stage, hey, come sit in with us. And then they sit down and you sit down or I sit down, of course. And the guitar player goes up to the microphone and goes, hey, you guys, John's sitting in with us. And we're going to play this song. And John, it's a shuffle. The toughest thing to do ice cold and half drunk is start off playing a shuffle. Just because you need to get warm and you need to get in the groove just to swing properly.
Yeah.
And that's a show opener for her. She just walks out on stage and busts out a galloping bass line and sings over it. I mean, that's the other thing, is that we're talking about all the trailblazing she did as an artist and stuff, but just as a bass player, she is a badass.
Name the bass players, you know, rock and roll bass players who started before Suzi did.
Oh, here comes Suzi.
We got Suzi right now.
Where I thought we were going at 7:00. It's now just after 6.
You know, time differences. I don't know. We're doing it.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Here you are.
Sorry, guys. I was all set, ready to go. I've even got my little glass of champagne because I've been in the studio all day. So
I didn't know we were drinking. I'm going to get a cocktail while you and John talk.
You're a bit early for a cocktail.
I'm going to have to order room service. Yeah, but it's a weekend.
It's not when Suzi fucking Quatro is on your show.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Oh my God. Anyway, so here we are. Sorry, I really was waiting until 7 because that's what I had on my list, but it doesn't matter. We're here now.
Well, you know, time difference. We got it wrong. I don't know. We can blame it on me. I'm the producer, so you can blame it on me.
I am blaming it on the coronavirus.
Okay.
You know what? Perfect.
Uniform excuse.
Hey, will you do this for us? Will you start us off by saying, this is Suzi Qutro and you're watching the Break It Down show?
Watching the what?
Break It Down show.
Break it down. Ready?
Yep.
Hi, this is Suzi Qutro, and you are watching the Break It Down show, and that's my DJ voice.
All right. Suzi Qutro was born in Detroit, grew up in Grosse Pointe, and moved to London at the urging of Mickey Most in 1971. She's a singer, songwriter, band leader, and because I'm a drummer, she's my best friend because she's a badass bass player and a fox who can take the knocks. She delivered 15 studio albums, 1 live album, at least 18 compilations that we could find, and has sold over 55 million records worldwide and counting. She paved the way for the likes of Joan Jett, Pat Benatar. I could go on forever, but she's one of rock's most important rebels and one of its most enduring survivors. And for that, today we celebrate. Suzi, one of the best days of my life seeing your face on this show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. It is nice. I just came from the studio, actually. So, yeah.
One of the things we've learned about on this show is that there's certain people who hold down the foundation of the show. We had Sly Stone on the show, and what we figured out about Sly Stone is the people that copied the people that copied the people that copied the people copied Sly Stone. And you are similarly elemental in rock and roll. I call you Element Q on the rock and roll chart. There's nobody, not female, male, doesn't matter. Nobody who doesn't have your DNA, your element in their rock. Nobody.
I know, it's just there, isn't it? And you know what the best thing about, and I agree with what you say, by the way, when I do my 15-minute bass and drum solo on stage, I actually say that without the bass and the drums, you've got nothing. Because we are the engine. We are the engine that drives the car. Everything else is a color. But I am not a failed, this is important, I'm not a failed guitar player. How many bass players do you know that started on guitar and went to, I didn't. I'm a bass player. A bass player.
No. I'll say before you played bass, you played percussion.
I did.
So there.
I played.
She's a percussionist first.
I am. Yeah, sure. Well, I was. That was my first instrument. I read and write and play percussion. I read and write and play classical piano. I'm self-taught on the bass. So all 3 of those things are percussive instruments, you know? Yeah. So that I'm wired that way. I'm just wired to lay it down, basically.
Yeah. The bass in your hands is a percussion instrument.
Yeah, I do play it very percussive. Not always, though.
Yeah.
Not always. Sometimes I'm into that walking bass stuff, and you're not going to break me no matter what you do. I'm in there. But interesting enough, when I've had these conversations with different musicians, famous ones, not famous ones, whatever, the same thing is always said to me from different mouths, you know, be they famous or not. They always say the same thing. They say, whatever you play always feels correct. And that's the best compliment you can give me.
Yeah. That
it feels right. And that's what a bass should be. It should feel right. Don't play lead bass, you know. Play bass.
Mm.
How did you get to the bass? I mean, you're so early in your, like, the rock and roll thing. A lot of people playing bass at that point are still playing fucking stand-up bass, you know? And you're like, yeah, I want to front a band and I want to play the bass, this electric bass. It wasn't even that. It wasn't common for anybody. Were there any other lead performers who played bass when you got going? Anybody?
I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't have anybody that I said, oh, I'd like to be like him. Didn't exist. Not female anyway. When we started the band, it was after seeing the Beatles on TV. And we were on the phone with just one of my sisters. There's 4 of us and a brother and 2 other sisters and a girl who lived down the road. And we were going all excited and everything. And I think it was Patty said, let's form an all-girl band. And everybody went, yeah, yeah. And then everybody all at once, I'm playing lead, I'm playing rhythm, I'm playing drum. And I kind of didn't speak up. So my sister said, you're playing bass. I said, okay. I didn't care. And then I said, because I always am that element anyway in my DNA. And I asked my dad, did he have a bass guitar? Because he was a musician. And we had every instrument you could think of was at the family home. We had 3 pianos. We had a harp. We had 2 different accordions. We had guitars. We had ukuleles. We had everything you can think of. So I said, Dad, we're forming a band. Do you have a bass guitar I can use? And musicians get sick to their stomach when I tell them this. My first bass at the age of 14, and I still have it, 1957 Fender Precision.
And you still have it.
I rest my case. Was there any doubt that I was going to be a serious bass player? I did not know. I don't pretend. I didn't know that it was a big bass. I just thought, this is what I've been given to learn. I didn't know there were shorter scale necks. I didn't know anything. I just thought, okay, I've been given this to learn, and that's what I learned. So that's why I never could be comfortable with a short scale or even a lighter one. This feels right. This is my baby.
Yeah. Just for our listeners, that's a heavy bass, and it's the widest fretboard in the business, and you put it in the hands of a petite 14-year-old girl.
No, but do I care?
Yeah.
Clearly, you do not.
You do not.
It was Alice Cooper, my good friend on my documentary. He says, why didn't she get a smaller bass? You know, I've known Alice forever. He said, I didn't know there was a smaller bass. How did I know this? I'm given a bass guitar to learn, so that's what I learned. It stands up to here on end, you know.
Hey, the documentary, again, for our listeners and viewers, is called Suzi Q, and it's available on all the streaming sites. So you should stream it. Alice Cooper's in it. Henry Winkler's in it. Debbie Harry's in it. And a slew of the Talking Heads, you know, Tina Weymouth, and a lot of other people you influenced spoke up about your influence.
So many. Katie Tunstall, she's a good friend of mine. Cherie from the Runaways. Joan. Debbie Harry.
Yeah. that
was funny when I watched the film the first time, and she's a friend of mine, and I love Debbie. And she comes on and she says, oh, Suzi's so beautiful. I wanted to put my voice in and say, because I thought that would be really amusing, because, and I'm not searching for compliments. There are certain compliments anybody can take and find, but I can't handle Debbie Harry saying to me that I was so beautiful, and it makes me laugh. And I'm not looking for you to say anything, but it made me laugh. And I really and the director wouldn't let me do it. I wanted my voice to go to say Debbie, you know. But very sweet of her to say that anyway. She's lovely.
Well, I have a compliment for you, and I'm going to demand that you take it, because I've had a crush on you for 55 years. And one of the reasons that's true is because of the song Your Mama Won't Like Me. I knew when I was a kid and I heard Your Mama Won't Like Me, and it flipped my switch. I was like, man, I'm in for some really painful teenage years, because the kind of girl I like is the kind of girl my mama don't like.
Well, that's okay. Then we're on the same page.
Also, by the way, that was rock and roll. And that song came out in what year did that come out? 74?
75.
75. That song came out in 1975, everybody. Go back and listen to that song. I defy you to find another song that is that badass. And I would actually, of all the people that are noted for taking your influence, one of my very, very favorite artists is a little known or a kind of a funk secret handshake, and her name is Betty Davis. Mm-hmm. And she was Miles Davis's wife, and produced.
I've seen stuff on her. Didn't she learn how to play? Was it drums that she played?
I'm not sure. I know her first album was produced by Guerrero, the drummer from Sly and the Family Stone.
I saw a documentary on him, and his wife played on stage with him.
Yeah,
and nobody knows that she did. You know?
Okay, so there you go. Yeah, but she also was a singer, and she also took her music and her writing in a direction that was very similar, which is to say, I'm a bad chick and I kick the door down.
Absolutely.
And I love that work and that spirit. And, we are only left to imagine that she took some amount of influence from, your ability to blaze that trail as well, especially since she was with Miles, and Miles was constantly touring Europe. So I'm positive that she was exposed to what you were doing.
It's Mike Chapman said, I can't remember where he said it. This is his words, not mine. He said, every single girl that came after me in the business owes something to me, which I thought was a very nice thing to say. But what you have to remember is, without bragging here, there wasn't anybody before me. So this kind of mantle falls onto my shoulders. Sure, there were women musicians, of course. Big Mama Thornton,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so many of them. But I was the first one to have success fronting a band, playing the bass guitar. So this mantle falls to me. And I didn't even know I was doing it. I was just doing what I had to do. And this is why it worked. This is why it worked. That I didn't know I was doing it. If you get what I mean psychologically, I didn't do it on purpose. I just was uncompromising about who and what I was. This is me. I either make it like this or I don't make it at all. And I had that attitude. I still have the same attitude now. You know, take me as I am or go away. This is me. It's all you can be is who you are. That's all anybody can be.
I wanted to get your thoughts on Tina Turner, because she also, like, you know, her old man invented rock and roll, you know, largely. And so she's like one of the very few people that's sort of even akin to you. You guys are different styles, but what are your thoughts?
But she's not a musician. This is what separates. She's not a musician. I'm not talking about female singers. You had Joplin, you so many people, sure, that paved the way in their way. I was the first musician rock and roll singer to have success. It didn't exist. It didn't exist. That's what fell on my shoulders. And I'll tell you another funny story. And I didn't know it till the documentary was made, and I watched it in front of an audience. And then I just went, what? You know, I went to LA in January to get my Icon Award at Shebox. And I had asked Cherie, who's a friend of mine now, we became good friends, to give me the award. And she went on stage to do her speech, and she burst into tears. And they were genuine. I just went, wow. You know, and then about 2 or 3 months later, when the documentary is doing the rounds, I did a Zoom with Cherie and Kathy Valentine. And Kathy Valentine starts to cry. And I'm going. Then I had another friend of mine come over here from the Baby Animals, Australian band, girl. I took her upstairs to my ego room to show her everything up there. It's a very famous room. She starts to cry. So finally, I called my friend Cherie and I said, I got to talk to you. And she said, what? I said, okay, I didn't understand something until just this minute. And I'm going to share it with you. I said, I realized, and I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't do it on purpose. I realized that by me doing what I did and being uncompromising and paving the way and this and that, there's a lot of women out there who had no place where they could belong. They were out in the cold. So me making it gave the women who are different permission to be different. And that made me cry. So it's full circle now. I went, wow, that really humbled me. That's what I did. And Cherie said, you didn't get that? I said, no, I never thought about it. I honestly never thought about it. All these lost women who, where do I belong? All of a sudden they went, oh, I can do that. So, wow. Fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I was thinking about your DNA and thinking about Heart as well. You know, like here's another band that, you know.
Excellent they are too. Excellent.
Boy, what a band. Yeah, and again, we'll say this out loud just in case anybody, we're not taking anything away from anybody. We're just making sure that we spend some time giving Suzi her due, because in America, we've let you down. Like we have.
Absolutely.
I was based over here, don't forget. I was. And I think they described it very, very well in the documentary, that it was maybe a little bit early. You were still stuck in Eagles and this and that. So maybe it was a little bit early. People definitely knew who I was. You know, I was touring all the time. But I think that big catalog of the hit singles at that time didn't quite marry over there. It took Happy Days really to break me big time. And then Stumbling In, which was a million seller, which wasn't really my style. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you watched me playing Leather and you got on board, or you heard Stumbling In and you got on board. You finally got on board. So even though you were a bit late, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I forgive you.
Stumbling In didn't even really capture, like you said, it wasn't your style. It didn't capture your.
No, great song.
Yeah, great song.
Yeah, but fantastic song. It's one of the evergreens that I do. People go nuts. So, but it didn't capture my essence. No, but I think everybody's catching up now. I mean, the documentary sits at #1 on Amazon. I'm not doing a movie of my life. And you saw by all the people in the documentary that everybody knew. Me.
Yeah, everybody knew.
So whether the singles were coming or not, it didn't really matter. They still knew who I was. I was still blazing the trail.
Also, you've done okay, huh?
The what?
You've done okay.
I've done okay. And when you say, I have to say it this way, there's only one reason I kicked down the door. It makes me laugh. It's because I didn't see the door.
Yeah, you had no idea.
It was in your way. You didn't see it. You just mowed over it.
Oh, is there a door? Or, boom.
Was there a door? Was that a door?
There? What did I just come through? Yeah, I'm like the Incredible Hulk without the green chest. Yeah.
My brother-in-law Steve asked a good question. I want to turn it around though, because I'll put it up here on the screen. He asked, about your inspiration from people like Janis or Dolly. But what I really want to know is who has come up to you and they said, "Holy shit, Suzi, you inspire me." I don't care if it's a male or female. Like, who did you go, really? Me? Like, oh my God, you inspire me.
There were some of them were obvious ones. Yeah. And I won't talk about those. Who was it? Oasis. Liam Gallagher.
Yeah.
I kind of went, what? No, because I don't get that. I don't get that. Oh, the White Stripes from Detroit.
Yeah.
But you can get that
from Detroit.
Yeah, I guess, but I didn't see the connection in the music. But yeah, there have been a few surprises,
I think that's what Pete's point is that you don't necessarily have to see the connection in the music because you blew the door down. You blew the door down for a lot of people and a lot of ways of thinking, regardless of what the music sounded like.
I did, and I would do it again anytime. Do not categorize me. Do not box me in, and do not tell me what I can't do. I convinced you, didn't I? Both of you are going, okay.
Yeah, we're convinced.
You said we were drinking. I grabbed my bottle. I do what Suzi says.
Well, also 56 years of longevity. The longevity is something that we also can't ignore because you're in a business that famously chews people up and spits people out. And a lot of times when you bust down a door, the wear and tear on all of the people who have busted doors down, is evident throughout rock and roll history. But you've hung in there and been not just, it's not like you're making a comeback. You've been here the whole time.
I've never gone away. And I've been, first of all, I have a sensible attitude to the business. I love what I do. An old-fashioned entertainer. My whole thing in life is to go on that stage with a crowd of people who I've never met and take you on the journey. I love it. Every gig is like my first gig. I've been very creative in my career. I've done a lot of different things, as you know. I'm a poet, I'm an honorary doctor of music at Cambridge. I've been on the radio for 14 years. I've acted in musicals and da-da-da-da-da. So I haven't been boxed in, but the place where I live is my rock and roll stage. That's where I don't even think about it. I'm high. This is what I can't understand when some artists have to get high to go on stage. I don't get it because going on stage is the high. Why do you need to get down? That's the buzz.
I think I'll answer it for you, Suzi, is because we still love you and crowds everywhere still love you. And I think that when people turn to the dope and stuff, number one, it's so accessible, of course. But number two is because they start to lose a step. And I saw when you got that award, the She Rocks Award, I heard what you said about retiring. And
my famous line.
Yeah.
He doesn't know it. I'll say it for you because you don't know it. They've always asked me, and it's followed me my whole career. They always said to me from 35 on, I'm now 70, when are you going to retire? And my answer was, when I turn my back and shake my ass and the audience is silent. It hasn't happened yet.
And so she persists.
And when I turn, they're all going, oh, please make some noise. We work some more. No, it was a glib comment, but I do have a nice backside. I do try to back into a realm when I can. But I am I'm not going to retire anytime soon. I'm just making maybe the finest album of my career that I wrote during lockdown with my son. We're just now putting finishing touches on it. And of course, it's influenced by what we're all going through. Yeah. But it's a fantastic album. But you'll hear the elements in there. The movie of my life is going ahead. There's some big people coming on board as we speak. And I wrote and released a illustrated lyric book. all during lockdown.
Terrific.
So, and I'm working on.
stop.
I can't. Not my 3 keywords: entertainment, communication, and creation. That's it. That's me.
Did you make that record at Rack Studios?
I did 5 days at Rack, 10 days around the corner from me, and quite a few days in my home studio. So we now just added some strings to the Christmas single, because you can't have a Christmas single without strings. It's absolutely beautiful. But the whole album is just really happening. It's as important as my first album. No Control really put me back on the map in many ways. The reviews for that were great. First time I worked with my son, and he managed to push my Suzi Qutro buttons. He did it.
Wow.
When he first started to write together, I finally said, okay, let's try it out. You know, we did a few demos. And he said to me, he had the nerve to say to me, I want to remind you of who you are. And I went, then I said, you're grounded. No, it was good. It was good. He did push my buttons. And I think he didn't know he was doing it, I don't think, but he was remembering the person he saw as he was growing up. And so he wanted me to go back. Not that I left it, but he wanted me to go into that beauty of that element again, you know, which is what I did. And we made a great album. But this one's even more. Jeez. What's he doing to me?
That's terrific. Hey, just because you've been in the business so long and we see how people make adjustments as they go longer and longer into the business, do you guys still do Can the Can in the original key?
Sure.
All right.
That's another thing. Sure. That's another thing. In fact, I play the drums at the beginning of that. I go up and do a drum solo with the drummer. Oh, yeah. That's another thing I don't understand. Other artists, when they say, oh, we can't stand to do those hits, I think, what's the matter with you?
Yeah.
My God, you're up there, you go, they go, how can you not love it? You should always be proud of your past. Don't dwell on it, but be proud of it. You know, I always add new tracks from each album and all that. And so this album right now, we're doing 5 tracks from it. So now when the next one comes out, I'll add some of that, you know. So we do, when you see my 2-hour shows, which is what I do now, 2 hours with a 50-minute interval, costume change, you get everything from the beginning to the present day. And you get a real journey, which is what I like, you know. I do a song at piano by myself. People love that. I do a bass drum solo. I do a drum solo. I do everything I can do. And play your hits and your favorite album tracks. And entertain you, which is what I love to do. I have got the entertainment gene.
You're an old school entertainer. Hey, just because I'm a drummer, I have to ask, where's Dave Neal?
Oh, that's a question. Okay. About 1.5 years ago, possibly 2 years now, I had a gig that I was doing and my normal drummer couldn't do it. So it was a very important gig. And I thought of Dave, my original drummer, because he knew a lot of the songs, or the drummer that came after him. Mm-hmm. So Dave, my original drummer, he really wanted it. You know, he just said, please, please, please let me do it. So I said, okay. So it was in Switzerland. He played fantastic. We played an 1.5 to 2-hour show. He was great. And all the records sounded authentic because he was the drummer on them, you know. And he came home after the Swiss gig. The next day, he slid off his chair onto the ground. He couldn't move, and he had a stroke. And he's in a wheelchair. Not good.
Well,
I've been
I had
to
to
see
be
him
prepared for that answer because I love his drumming.
I know. Several times I've been to see him, and, you know, bless him, I love the man. You know, he even came to one of the premieres in London to the documentary, and I introduced him, you know. I felt bad because I thought, oh, my God, I wish I'd taken the other drummer. And everybody says, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself, you know, because you don't just have a stroke from nowhere. He must have been heading that way anyway, but it makes you feel a little bit responsible, you know.
Yeah,
but
not only that, but I mean, for an unfortunate occurrence, but what a way to go out, you know. He had that last big show with you.
He did, and he was brilliant.
Yeah.
He was brilliant. Maybe that was his path. I don't know. Anyway, I love the man. You know, I'm very close with him. And we love
you, Dave Neal. I love him too.
Oh, he's great. He wasn't a musical drummer. He was a steady rock drummer.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he did. You know, he laid it down. When he left,
out of it too.
yeah, I wanted to stop because I was so close with him, you know, that way. I thought, oh no, I can't play with another drummer but Dave. But since then I have. So, but bless him, Dave. Bless you, Dave.
What does that mean for you standing on the stage when you have that steady rock drummer? I mean, help us lay people out. You know, John's a drummer. He gets it right away. I don't even know what the hell a pocket even is. So when you're up there running all over the stage, playing the piano, telling your jokes and everything else you're doing, but you got Dave, a guy like that back there. What does that mean?
It means that you sit together on the same note. One of you is playing it. One of you is beating it. And you're on the same page. And I might go, don't, and the drummer will go, and he caught it. So it's what it is. It's sitting there in that pocket. And if you haven't got that, you've got nothing. Everything else shoots out from that. You know, but you got to have the bass and drums. And I hear everything when I'm up there. If there's a mistake, I hear it.
Suzi, I want to point out that Pete plays dumb about the pocket. He always says, I don't know what the pocket is. Tell me what the pocket is. But he's asked Stuart Copeland. He's asked Stuart Copeland. He's asked Nathan East. He's asked many of the greats. And you just gave a fantastic answer.
Sure.
Well, because I believe it. I believe it. And I love that feeling up there with the bass and the drums together is, you know, I've done for years now, about a 15, maybe 20-minute bass and drum solo. And it's kind of orchestrated. It used to be just see where it goes. And then one of my drummers said, I want to play what you're playing. And I said, okay, let's go through it. Became orchestrated. So it goes everything from funk to rock to 5/4 to jazz to slapping. And you got the whole thing all tied together. So it's not a boring bass solo. And when I search if there's a new drummer coming into my band and I need a new person, I give them 2 things to learn for the audition. Sweet Little Rock and Roller and my bass and drum solo.
Okay.
That's it. And everything else is in between.
Yeah.
They can do that, they're in. Yeah.
That's terrific. When you're playing and you're locked in with it, see, we can ask music nerd questions and you can answer them, and then we can ask rock icon questions and you can answer them. And that's what's fun about this conversation, because we can go all over the place.
Oh, you can. Now, listen, when you're locked in, here's something a lot of people would think we're being anal. Maybe we are. You know, for me, I like, you know, you can either play on the front of the beat or the back of the beat. Now, you know what I'm saying, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I like the drummer to play on the back of the beat.
Uh-huh.
Because it gives me the ability to have the intensity to just be a little bit in front, a little bit on the top of the beat. And that makes that rounded.
The tension.
And another no-no for me. And I'm sorry, bass players who use a pick. But why? Why?
You can't hear your skin.
But click, a pick on a bass, that it's all about fingers and skin.
That's right.
And feeling, you know, you can go loud, you can go soft. A pick is just metal sounding. And I will say that most bass players who play with a pick are failed guitar players. There's a few. I'm not taking the piss, but there are a few who I'd say, okay, that's not true. I mean, like Jack Bruce, for instance, he's a fantastic player, but he did play lead bass. Yeah. And he had to play lead bass because he was in the Cream. So there were only 3 instruments. So he had to fill in a lot of space, which I understand. Then you get somebody like Jamerson. I see now you're getting me. I am going nerdy now. Jamerson from Detroit, who was my hero.
Yeah, James Jamerson. We love him.
Yes. I have a lot of his style in my way. I do a lot of triplets. I do leave spaces. I do a lot of walking because he was a jazz player.
A lot of walking. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of walking.
Your gallop. You have a very Jamerson-esque gallop.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do. I remember I listened to, years ago this was, I was jamming. I was like maybe 16, jamming along to records on the stereo in Detroit. And I put on How Sweet It Is by Marvin Gaye. And I started to play along. And I went, what? What? Put it back. What? You know, you think, doom, 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 doom. No! And I played it again, and Jamie said, doom, doom, ticket, the doom, ticket, the boom. Jesus Christ Almighty! So he played 1/3 of the notes I thought I heard, and this changed my style. This is a real wake-up point for me. I went, okay, leave the gap sometimes. You leave the gap, you know? But you have to learn, you have to feel. I had to feel what he felt. So I took some stuff from him, and I took some from Can Heat bass player. I love jazz too. And I love boogie. I'm a real boogie player.
Yeah. There's that gallop. I was telling Pete just before you came on, I was telling Pete, the toughest thing to do is when somebody says, hey, come sit in with us. And the first thing they want to play when you're ice cold and half drunk is a shuffle.
Do you know you cannot? If you hang on 1 second, I'm going to grab my acoustic bass. Don't go away.
Okay.
This is
it is on. It is on. So yeah, that's this is happening.
Let me ask you a question. Is it that she has a Jameson like gallop, or does Jameson have a Suzi like gallop? That's a question you can ask with almost everybody we talk about in these conversations.
Well, it's true, but James Jamerson was, he was born in 1920 or something. So so in this one case, it goes the other direction. But the thing about that is that she's talking about leaving space between notes, and the ability to have that fluidity and that that dexterity is great, but it's amplified when you're also singing.
Okay.
Look at that.
Here, this is how sweet it is to be loved by you. Right?
Right.
That's normal.
Rhythmically similar to what you're singing.
Here's Jameson.
Right.
He didn't. Okay, I give you guys a treat. Okay. Here's my best ever bass line I ever wrote. You can Google it when I'm done. It's a song called Walking Through the Changes. And I have given this song to many, many bass players, and they can't play it. All right, hang on. You all those triplets?
Yeah.
But the shuffle, what you were talking about was people get up to play. The shuffle. Now you hear when I do my master bass classes, I try to explain it to people. You can't teach somebody to feel that shuffle.
Right.
It's not right. That's not what it is.
Straight.
See, it's a difference in the nose. And you can't get that with a pick either. Okay.
Because your pick doesn't walk like your fingers walk. Your fingers actually walk. Not only that,
and
but
you have the sensitivity, you know that. How can you do that with a pick? How can you do that? And my son wrote a song on the album. That was one of these. And he said, you have to play a pick to do that. Mom, I said, watch. 4 minutes later, still doing it. But there's one I wanted to show you, because a lot of people have asked me through the years, how the hell do you play bass and sing lead? I never even thought about it. Maybe that's because I started on percussion. Everything's a different beat, and in piano, 2 different hands. I just didn't. But when I did "She's in Love with You," one of my hits, I had to practice it.
yeah,
Because it's like a machine. Doesn't move. Doesn't move. So if you see her all alone one night, walk up to her, just sweetly ask her why. Do you hear that? Complete behind.
yeah.
And she replies with words that don't make sense. It may be just because she's shy. And how do you do that? So I had to practice, so I didn't think about this going like a machine and put my vocal behind. Now I can do it, and I don't think about it. But that was a hard one to sing and play. The only one. And The Girl from Detroit City, that's the other one. But other than that, And on the new album, there's the first single was called No Control. No Soul, No Control. Yep, if you play it, you can play that later. We put down, Richard showed me, it's so funny how this happened. Richard showed me a little riff in the studio. We were making the demos. And I said, oh, he said, I'm not sure if you're going to like this, Mom. It's a little bit heavy. And I said, show me. And I said, said, stick it down with the drum machine. Quick. Stuck it down. I took it into another part of the studio, and I wrote immediately a melody line that was it just fit. Boom. So I came in and I said, I know this is a demo, but let me put down my real vocal, which I did. Okay. It just worked. It was the vocal that we ended up on the record. Then we started adding the real instruments. The drums came on, the keys came in into there a bit. Richard redid his guitar. And then I had to come and redo my bass, because when you're playing with the drummer, it's going to be different than the drum machine, of course. So I did my bass part, and I was playing along to my lead vocal. So I got carried away. And I was just playing and playing and playing. And then I went to learn the song for stage. And I went, what? What did I do? Yeah. And I had to get the guy to send me the bass way up. So now it's okay. But I mean, I definitely, because I wasn't even doing the scratch vocal, I definitely played a little. Then I was being a bass player, because I was playing to my lead. Then I was just not even paying attention to that, just playing, So maybe being a little bit more busy than I would normally be, but I screwed myself, basically, I had to learn it then.
You know who else is busy when they play lead and sing is Mark King. Mark King can't just lay down something simple. He's always got to add his brilliance in that. And he's a wonderful bass player.
Very good. I do keep it simple until it's time to be fancy.
Yeah.
That's my motto. You have your moments.
You're not talking about complexity of the line. You're talking about the feel and the mastery of the feel, where you're able to push with the bass line, but pull back with the vocal. Man, correct. That's magic. That is magic. I want to go back to She's in Love with You, because that's one of my very favorite songs.
Yeah.
Because on Your Mama Won't Like Me, you were the bad girl. And on She's in Love with You, you taught the boys how to behave. Because you gave us the example. Yeah, I mean, we loved, hey, she's the party when it came to Your Mom Won't Like Me. But then when She's in Love with You came, you had to stop and pay attention and go, you know what? You treat this girl right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think there's your tension again. You're pushing and you're pulling.
I know. I can, I've always said this all my life. This is just the way I am. I am very tomboyish. I can be one of the guys. I can tell an off-color joke and da-da-da-da-da. But if you step over my personal line, the female card comes out of my back pocket and I will hold it up. And that's what I maintain. And I've tried to teach girls that through the years. Don't give that all away. Yes, I'm female. I don't play it all the time, but if I do play it, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Still a lady.
Yes. Nice. This is a nice bass. This is a gift from Andy Scott from Sweet. That's a funny story. See this huge bass.
Yeah.
I had a big party in London. A friend of mine, Mickey Mo's widow, gave me a big birthday party, and I had a lot of people there. Andy Scott, my friend from lead guitarist from Sweet, he came. He was a little bit late arriving, and he came in with this big guitar case. And I said to my husband, what is he doing, bringing a guitar to a beautiful restaurant like this? I was a little bit annoyed. And then we were ready to go home, and he went, here you go, happy birthday. I went, oh. Wow. I was embarrassed. I said, thank you. After shouting.
Oh, hey, speaking of shouting, I'm going to shout out the comment on the screen right now from Andy Brunt. Phil Lynott was another good example of a bass player, lead singer. And you guys toured together, did you not?
Yes, we did. And I'm on the documentary that's just coming out about him too. Now we had this discussion, I got to get rid of this call, just a second.
Okay.
I'm going to have a sip of whiskey in the meantime.
Yeah, you have a sip of whiskey. And while you do that, are you drinking Angel's Envy right now?
I'm drinking a thing called Oak and Eden, and it's got a little hunk of oak in there, and
I
that
see.
oak is like the
Oh, well, if you come back, I'm still on. Come in. Whatever. I'm on it now.
A
Okay.
piece of the barrel.
yeah, exactly, piece of the barrel to keep it aged.
Okay, Phil. Yeah. Phil and I discussed this many times. Phil was a frustrated guitar player.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. He did go to bass because he couldn't do guitar, so he went to bass, and he played. He was a very good bass player, but he did play bass more like guitar than bass. Yeah. He took a lot of his style from Hendrix. He thought he was the bass player Hendrix. That's what he thought he was. And he was good, Phil, and a nice guy. Nice man. Liked him very much.
Well, I'm shouting out Andy because he's also from London, and he's a guitar player and we play together in a band called the Uncommon Wealth.
Right
on, Andy. So anyway, we just wanted to celebrate you. The last question I always ask, because we're butting up against our close time here, is will you do this again with us? We love you so much.
Sure. I'll tell you what,
right.
I do have to go in a minute, because we've been on for a while now. When the album comes out.
Yes,
please.
I mean, after Christmas single, and then the album is due for out of March. We'll do it again. I'll get my son on here, and we talk about all the tracks and all that kind of stuff.
That'd be great.
For sure. That'd be great.
Yeah.
And just one quick word.
I'm going to have my champagne and have my evening now.
Good. Yeah. And then one quick word. Thanks to Wes for setting this up. We love him. We know you must love him because he's such a great guy. Thank you, Wes.
Well, you guys asked some good questions. It was nice to talk to you, and we will do it again, and that's a promise.
All right. We love you, Suzi Qutro. Everybody, watch the documentary. You can stream it everywhere.
Before you go.
Yes.
I'll believe you with that. Your mom won't like me, but your daddy will.
Thank you so much.
See you later, guys. Bye-bye.
Love you, Suzi.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Oh, Jesus.
Hey, John, stay here for a second.
What just happened? She just played me my favorite Suzi Qutro song.
And then just walked off the stage.
And walked off. Yeah. Dropped the mic on us.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
God,
hey, man, I just want to continue to celebrate Suzi Qutro for a few minutes, if you don't mind.
Okay. That's what I was going to do.
What is not to love about that lady? What the fuck is wrong with us?
Yeah.
How did we miss this?
How did we miss it? That's one of the things that has come up frequently with our connection to the UK is how wrong we get so many fine quality American things that they hear in London and go, oh, yeah. Oh, of course. And I mean, if you think about it, the blues, first of all, we underappreciated the blues, and then the Rolling Stones flat out said, we're going to take the blues and love on the blues and sell it back to America. And we bought the hell out of it.
Yeah.
When it was here all along.
It was ours.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Look at this comment. Oh, we both pushed the same time. What just happened? Here. There we go. I've never wanted to jump in the room and introduce myself before, but damn, she's a badass. Yeah, I love her so much. She is my hero. The female artists, it's inescapable to compare her to the female artists who are contemporary, because she did give permission to Mickey Steele, Amy Mann, Rhonda Smith, Gwen Stefani, Chrissy Hine, Sheryl Crow, and we all owe a debt of gratitude.
Pat Benatar, Joan Jett.
Yeah.
On and on.
we all owe a debt of gratitude to her contribution.
How about Madonna? She also gave permission to Madonna to go out there and not give. I mean, just like, again, Element Q.
Yep.
Yep. Whoever you are.
Yeah. It's somewhere. I don't know how the periodic table works, actually, because I sucked at chemistry, but there's a reason for all that placement, right? On the periodic table, and the relative or the relationship between those elements. And element Q is in the middle.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah. She's in the middle of all that shit. So
the table has a weighting, like on the atomic weight, basically, right? But then there's also like a newness. So if you're way down over here in the corner, californium, berkelium, stuff like that, and those are decades old elements.
Yeah.
They're nowhere near helium.
Yeah.
and gold. Those things are all way up the chart because of where they're at. And there's nothing wrong with berkelium, but it don't last very long.
Yeah.
You know, like literally, like they created it. They're like, that was there. It's gone. We had to use a super robot to measure it. But element Q, it sits there.
Yep.
You don't care if you ignored it or not. It just keeps on fucking queuing, you know?
And it's like carbon.
It's everywhere.
It's necessary for life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, man. She's something else. That's one of my very favorite conversations we've ever had.
So great. And another great bass player on the show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Man, what a streak of bass players we've had. We've gotten to the point where I sometimes am just at a loss for words when people go, yeah, who's been on your show? Like the other day, we were at a rehearsal and our friend Jim Messina came in. You remember Jim Messina, the photographer?
Yep.
He, he's also a great drummer, and he came in and played percussion in our rehearsal last week, and we had a great time. But he, I was telling him about the show because he didn't know anything about it. And I was like, yeah, Andy actually said, oh, he's had drummers on the show. And I was like, yeah, Stu, Rick, JR. I just went down the list and bass players. And, of course, we started the show with a bass player, James Early, who, by the way, I jammed with yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's very encouraging. He wanted to send a shout, and he's doing well. But anyway, yeah, what a streak of bass players we've had.
I think the first three guests, am I not correct in saying this? It was James, Derek, and McEnroe, Jason McEnroe, drummer, bassist, drummer. And if it's not that order, it's they're all in the first four shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Came out swinging hard with the section. And then had a lead singer right away, and then had a female lead singer right after that. We have quite the band.
Yeah.
Put together.
So this concept of pocket, man, I love how you play dumb on pocket and give somebody a question to give a fresh answer to. And she gave a great answer about being locked in. And, it just shows that's just her veteranness. She's been around so long and unfailingly been around. She's never had to do a comeback because she's always been there. God, I love that. Oh, man, I love that woman.
Yeah. It's incredible when you have these connections, too. I mean, we got the time screwed up, and who cares? Who knows why? It doesn't matter. Time screwed up. She shows up, performer, professional. Not shook by that at all. Not at all,
Oh, what do you want to start off with a shuffle? Sure. I'll play a walking bass line. Yeah,
I like a shuffle. It goes.
I just got here. I don't know whose bass this is, but we can go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so. I mean, it's just neat to be able to. The people that started rock and roll, some of them are still with us, and it's just incredible to hear her talk about it, and she's not held by. And we learned this from Dwayne, episode 6. Like removing those boundaries. Like, what is the biggest thing you can think of? Now let's build that. And if you miss, well, great. You built something way bigger than what you would have limited yourself. There wasn't a door. I just kept rocking.
Just kept rocking. Yep. Yeah. And if there maybe there was a door, but they blew through it. Just like Suzi said. Was that a door? That was the thing. There was something. It's like, when your friends would give you the silent treatment and you'd say something really important and they'd go, somebody leave a window open.
Right. Yeah.
So
didn't Mr. T, I think in a movie, did a tough guy competition or something? He played a character, and they put a wall up and he couldn't get by it. So one day he's like, I'm just running through it. And then he just had so much energy, he blew the door away.
Mowed it over. Yeah.
Yeah. So that doesn't have to be a door. If you put enough energy into it, you just do it.
This is right. I think we're in the category of obscure references. You might just have brought up like an old episode of Battle of the Network Stars or something.
It might be. Yeah, well, that same thing applies. Willie Wilson from the Royals, back when he was like super guy, he's like, that rope, I don't need that rope. I'm just going to run over this wall. And he literally just goes tick, 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 grabs it and goes. And you're like, I thought you had to. And there's Steve Bond from daytime soaps, Mr. Handsome guy's like, fucking flex. You guys can see my muscles.
Flex, yes.
And Willie Wilson's already on the 15th obstacle. Like he's done it 3 times.
Yeah.
Steve's like, Look at my arms.
I'm glistening, but I'm getting lapped.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, sometimes the wall don't matter. Sometimes you're like, oh, that was a wall? I just thought we had to go over that thing or through it or whatever. Yeah, she's incredible, man.
Yeah, she's
I
fun.
wanted to say this too. Like we lose track of what it means to be, like, to start rock and roll before the Beatles had written Rubber Soul, you know?
Yeah.
Like, just to be that far back, how many things have changed that didn't even exist? Stereo didn't exist.
Yeah. Right. Right. Multi-track.
No.
Yeah. Never mind Pro Tools or something like that. They didn't have computers.
She couldn't fathom Pro Tools. She's like, why would you ever do that? You know, I know it. Like, she don't like a pick.
No. Not only that, but, you know, did you catch that comment about her son said, no, you need a pick to do that? And she was like, watch. And then busted out the song in one take. Yeah. She was like, 4 minutes later, I'm still doing this. Like, okay, I hear you. I hear what you said. You said you busted out the song in one take.
Yeah.
Which, you know, hey, man, 56 years in the business. Of course you did.
Of course. Yeah. Holding down a rhythm on one string.
Yeah.
She's been doing that for 50 years.
Did you just asked me to walk in the park? Okay.
Yeah. 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 It's like breathing.
That was fun, man. We got to talk about rock icon stuff, but we also got deep in music nerddom, and she went there with us. That was a lot of fun.
What's something you didn't get to ask her though?
I don't know. I'll be thinking about that all weekend. You know, that's why I made sure to ask if she would do it again with us, because anything that she's doing, I want to be a part of the promotion.
Yeah.
You know, just put it on the calendar. You're going to do all the talk shows. You're going to do the whatevers. You're going to do the Top of the Pops. And you're going to come on the Break It Down show.
Yeah, and that's a note too in general, just in public. We put this at the She Rocks people. We've been talking with them, and we had a good relationship working and everything, and then COVID kind of killed everything. But we want to start celebrating all of these women that are icons and make something. Not that the She Rocks awards aren't already big, but make it even bigger and really celebrate these ladies that have done all this stuff, because it is important. And by the way, hey, Grammys, pay attention. You know, hey, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, pay attention. There's a lady out there who sold 60 million albums, or 55, whatever that number is.
Whatever.
The number is not south to 55.
Right.
It's time to recognize Suzi Qutro for what she is, and that's.
By the way, let's remember that that's across 18 studio albums and like 28 compilations. Record companies, it's often in a record company's interest to account conservatively. And by that, I mean, a lot of times people get ripped off by their record company, like N Too Deep. That album, I'm positive, sold 1 million copies. And they're like, oh, it just barely went gold. Because what happens is your royalty rate goes up every time you hit a milestone. So they want to keep you south of those milestones. And even with that in her career, there's no denying that she sold at least 55 million records.
Yeah, so, and what you're saying is 100% true. I mean, you think about the record company has to pay a higher number the bigger that number is. And they want you to be successful, but what's the smallest number we can say? Guns N' Roses have said the same thing. Like, they picked a number that was hard. Like, we're musicians. We don't want to hire a lawyer. We don't want to pay a lawyer however many millions of dollars to go get however many millions of dollars, you know? So we're just kind of be pissed off, negotiate a better deal next time, you know, and go forward. So that absolutely, that 55 really is, it's over 60.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah, that was great, man. That was a fantastic conversation. She really delivered. I think we gave her space to deliver, thankfully.
Okay, here's one more thing I want to talk about real quick.
Yeah.
We had Vincent Darby on the show earlier this week. He's 20, getting started out of Birmingham.
Yeah.
And we just had Suzi Qutro on.
Yep. Two ends of the bookshelf for sure. Yeah. I mean, he's got a bright future ahead of him, and he seems to have the tools, but she's proven. And that's it. She's just proven. You know what? We didn't ask her about her Elvis Presley story. Did you ever hear her Elvis Presley story?
No, I haven't heard.
She, of course, loved Elvis. You know, they started the band with the sisters when they saw Elvis on the Ed Sullivan Show. She was on tour, or she was making a record, and she happened to be in Memphis, and she had done a song that I can't remember which one it was. One of the Carl Perkins songs or whatever that, Elvis also did, Blue Suede Shoes or something. Anyway, she had done a version of it and he liked it. So he found out that she was in Memphis and the phone rang at the studio and it was so-and-so for Elvis Presley, how the people call. And she says, okay, well, that's great. And then he gets on the phone and suddenly she finds herself on the phone with Elvis Presley. And he said, I want you to come to my show. I'm playing a show tonight. And I want you to be my guest. And she said, like a boss, making a record, man, really busy.
Love it.
Yeah. And it wasn't because she didn't want to meet him. Of course she wanted to meet him, but she didn't feel like she was ready to meet him and be cool. She was like, I'm going to get there and I'm going to lose my mind and I don't want to do that yet. So I'm going to put this off until I can learn to be cool. And when I feel like I can be cool in front of Elvis, then I'll accept his invitation. And then, of course, not long after that, he died and she never got the chance. But she ended up writing a song called Singing with the Angels. And it was about him. And so she got an amazing song that she needed that inspiration to write. But in exchange for that, she never got to meet Elvis.
I think she takes that deal because she's met plenty of incredible people.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And when, a lot of musicians talk this way, when God shows up with the song, your job is to write it, not to go see Elvis.
Right.
The person who picks go see Elvis isn't a musician.
Doesn't have 56 years in the business. Yeah.
No. It's those things they're incredible. The moments, the gifts. Like you make a choice doesn't mean that you made a bad choice or gave something up. You always get something back.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what you do with it.
It was a personal sacrifice at the time. We'll all meet our maker at some point. I'm sure Elvis is going to be waiting, going, oh, I've been waiting for you, Suzi Qutro. As soon as I'm done jamming with Eddie, I'm going to come see you.
Why? I want to change, and I want to ask you what you think about this. When a lot of people talk about Suzi Qutro, me included, we think Leather Tuscadero.
Mm-hmm.
This is a bit part. Like you said, she was in like 13 episodes. And it's like they figured out that it worked, so they kept bringing her back, and they kept bringing in Pinky and all that stuff, and she got crunched by the Malachis and all that.
Uh-huh.
But if you say Leather Tuscadero, you can't find a more obscure TV character that has got more weight and more leg than that character. I mean, she's got that trigger pull thing that she did,
Yes.
Why?
Yeah, she's got a signature.
Why did we get that, but not get the rocker?
I don't know. Because that was also, by the way, that was her. I mean, she showed up to audition for Leather Tuscadero having no idea what anything was, except that they wanted to see her for a part. And so she shows up and Gary Marshall says, oh yeah, that's great that you dressed for the character. And she was like, I don't know anything about the character. This is how I dress. And so Gary Marshall was like, okay, ladies and gentlemen, wait a minute. Can you actually sing? She's like, yeah, I'll sing right now. Okay. I think we have a winner.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that the audition process was more than that, but in my imagination, the choice was crystal clear.
Come on, let's be honest. It was over, right? I mean, it was, you're like, I want Leather Tuscadero. And that lady shows up. Like, wait, you got a leopard? Like, no, that's just my cat.
Right. That's Malcolm. I brought Malcolm with me.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't you guys have a cat? My cat's just big. I don't know.
Yeah. Good God, look at him. Man.
Yeah. Oh man. It's just incredible the opportunity to talk to her. And again, thanks again to Wes. I mean, because she's literally one of the people that we talked about early on. And I don't know why I've been so big on Suzi Qutro for so long. But I think because I can't wrap my head around why we missed it so bad, And we're getting it. We're starting to figure it out. But from day one, it was like positive K, check, got that done early. Suzi Qutro, check. We're running out of these people that we thought would be impossible to meet through the show, and it's bonkers, man.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, look at Chef Otto. Yeah, that was terrific. She is one of my heroes, man. And we did, yes, she was on the wish list super, super early. I would go so far as to say when the show was in development, before we even recorded a single episode, she was already on the list.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That really does sound right. I don't want to keep you too long. I just wanted to continue the vibe.
I'm going on vacation. Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
That's just a hell of a show, man. And we've got to find a way to get out to London and just go set up in one of those studios and just run through all this stuff. Because there's so many incredible musicians out there that I would just love to have in there. Because we vibed over the internets. Yeah. Now imagine if we get in the same room, you know?
Well, yes. And, you know, Andy's got a bunch of friends over there too that he wants to introduce us to. And we, of course, want to take advantage of everybody who needs a platform to promote whatever they're promoting. So
yeah, absolutely, for sure. Everybody should really go to Spotify, spin some of Suzi's stuff. For sure, watch the documentary. I mean, this is a great way to support these artists. Is just put on Suzi Qutro on Spotify. Everybody has that program.
That's right. Just consume their stuff.
Yeah, and you're not going to be like, oh, that song's a stinker. You're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's good. Oh yeah, that's good. Oh yeah, that's good. And you find yourself tapping and yeah. I mean, that's a great way to support anybody. It's by going and spinning and consuming, you know, spend $5, buy the documentary, whatever, rent it, but spend a couple bucks and support a lifelong artist. That's how we start to make it up. And then hopefully the Grammys and all these other organizations, the Songwriters Hall of Fame. I wanted to ask her and bring up Allie Willis. You know,
I know, if her fellow Michigander.
Yeah, you could knock this TV tray over and I'll pull a you know, a song out of it. You're
yeah,
like,
did you hear that melody? No, I heard my fork land on the ground. Yeah, there's the question. I'm sorry. We'll have to ask that next time we talk to her. That's the question that I'm sorry we didn't ask, was if she knew Allie, because I suspect that she did.
Because Allie knew Debbie.
Yeah.
It sounded like Allie and Debbie were friends. So yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, great question, Steve, and thanks for hanging out with us. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
I guess you would call Steve my brother-in-law because he's my brother's brother-in-law. So that means he must be my brother-in-law too.
Yeah, why not?
Either way, I consider him family. So it's great to have Steve checking the show out and everything else. And
thank you, Steve.
I'm good. You want to ask me anything or you want to say anything else?
No, I'm ready. I just want you to keep that pocket question in your holster like you do and bust it out in front of all these enormous legends who explain it differently a little bit each time.
Well, that's like that question we asked the question to of Mick Gillette, like what is funk, and he had a great answer. Like it's like, you know, someone holds the groove down, and you know, somebody else
plays in the spaces.
Yeah, takes that and uses that as the anchor, and it was great. Made a lot of sense. And I'm probably going to ask that: why is Larry Mullen a crappy yet wonderful drummer at the same time?
Yeah,
you know, I'm going to keep asking that. And ultimately, the argument is a scoreboard argument. Like, you got to be good. Look at the up.
Right. It's like, oh, this guy can't hit, but he's got 1,000 home runs. What?
1,000 home runs, and you know, has a higher average than you. It's like,
yeah, right.
He's good.
Yeah, this guy can't hit, but he hit 400 8 seasons in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the Hunter Pence of drummers, you know. Like, what are you doing, you gangly, awkward? He just got a hit.
Yeah, to go back to
hey man, don't swing the bat like that. Oh, that's a triple.
Yeah. Nobody's been coached to swing like Ichiro.
Yeah,
and he got 1,500 hits before he got to the major leagues and got 3,000 hits.
Right. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Don't do that, kid. That kid should keep doing that. This one, no. You know, classic swing.
Don't watch him. Yeah.
Watch him. Don't do that.
Don't watch him. Yeah, exactly. So, all right,
man.
Thanks, everybody.